There is recognition simply in the action of gathering and celebrating together, which confirms the reason Manresa was brought into being and sustained through 88 years of history. It would not have occurred, of course, if people like those gathered here, you, and many others, certainly, had not moved from what I like to call from comfort to leadership. Leadership has about it a kinesthetic kind of feel, a sense of movement, of action. One can't be a leader without risk and without extending oneself. Certainly leadership has many characteristics, and one can analyze them from dawn to dusk. And there are hundreds of elements that go into and neatly fit many definitions that someone could use to describe who leaders are and what they do. I'd like to center on a single one. The opening of Chris Lowney's short book on Pope Francis's leadership style contains a quote from the Pope, which captures, I think, both the essential quality of a leader and which I think describes tonight's recipients of the Leadership Award and the Lifetime Achievement Award for Manresa. This is what he said. Today's world stands in great need of witnesses. It is not so much about speaking, but rather speaking with our whole lives. The world needs people like our honorees, who are willing to let their lives speak for them to the world about how important Christ is to them. Our honorees tonight have blessed the retreat house through many years because they have found a connection to God through their relationship with the community, which is Manresa. They are leaders in the best sense of what Pope Francis means. So tonight is a celebration, certainly, of what God is doing right in our midst. And it's personal because we have individuals here that exemplify that. It also demands recognition that there is more work to be done in the calling that is given to all of us. You will hear tonight some exciting news of not only of where we've been and the people who have brought us here, but also where we are going. In a sense, it is to carry on the legacy so well articulated by tonight's honorees, I think, through their commitment to Manresa and what goes on here. We also will be happily privileged to listen to a wonderful speaker, Father John O'Malley from Georgetown University, who will enlighten and I'm sure delight us all. Before going any further, however, I would like to call your attention and recognize some people without whom tonight would not have occurred. We have a couple of sponsors, the Raymond and Jane Cracchiola Foundation and the Sizer Capital Partners, LLC, who are sponsoring this event. There are a number of patrons in the audience, and I'd like to recognize those. Dr. Mary Gressens, Dr. and Mrs. Joseph and Elizabeth Eisenhower, and special thanks to Mike Carr and his team at Office Express. We have a number of honorary chairs that have helped to steer us through this. Ms. Carol Chisholm, Mrs. Martha Condit, Mr. and Mrs. Raymond and Jane Cracchiolo, Mr. and Mrs. Isaac and Balsam Hannah, Mr. Thomas and Dr. Patricia Cooney Hathaway, Mr. and Mrs. Jack and Kathleen McInerney, and Teresa M. Weber. Thank you very much. I would also be remiss if I didn't remember all the volunteers who helped to organize this evening, the members of the Manresa staff, and in particularly 4 of my staff that are here tonight: Ruth Ann Stevens, Karen Pick, Sally Janisek, and Sharon Tomkowiak. And I even pronounced Tomkowiak. I would also like to express my appreciation to Rita Tonetti, who is really vested with the evening's organizing. She's the organizer-in-chief of this affair, and I think she did a marvelous job. Thank you. I would like to now direct your attention to the screen.
When I drive onto Manresa's grounds, I can feel the peace.
God feels so close to me when I am here. I can hear God speak to me in the silence of Manresa.
Retreatant after retreatant has shared such words about Manresa Jesuit Retreat House. Since 1926, Manresa has helped men and women grow spiritually through prayer, reflection, guidance, and teaching, according to the Ignatian tradition. And in this holy place they have experienced the love of God, have given themselves into God's hands, have found God's will, and have brought that fire of love to their daily lives and to others.
But Manresa is not just a place. It is a community that journeys together, learns from one another, prays together, and supports one another. And that support is provided through retreats, workshops, seminars, reading groups, days of reflection, and many other offerings.
If you set time aside for God and enter into the silence, you will encounter God. God will not be outdone in generosity. You will find God, and that will change your life.
Thank you for supporting Manresa as we continue to help men and women in their spiritual journey.
I am very happy tonight to announce this evening a new effort towards sustaining Manresa well into the future. I'm acutely aware of the contribution of the many people whose names are very familiar to those that are in this room. Jim Maloney's father was an instrumental advisor to Father Wernert as he wound his way through the labyrinth, which was the 1960s. I have pictures that I gave to Jim of his father, talking to Father Wernert. William Bodie, who stood in the gap during the rebuilding campaign after the fire, and with his own treasure as surety guaranteed the building. George Reichenbach, who mentored me and instilled a passion for Manresa, which inevitably led me to accept employment at Manresa. And many others, including my own father-in-law, Bud Beach, who consistently and persistently, he was my father-in-law after all, insisted that an annual retreat is as important as any other single thing I could do for my spiritual well-being. We are announcing the public phase of the Sustaining Manresa campaign. The campaign is in anticipation of celebrating Manresa's 90th anniversary, which is in September of 2016. We will be planning for the event all next year, and we will have occasion to revisit our history and remember, that is to reconnect to it again. The campaign has two main components, and that's why it's called Sustaining Manresa. First is stabilizing the grounds through renovations to current buildings and improvements on the grounds. Capital projects include the creation of a new and improved sacred spaces, several of which have been sponsored already. The labyrinth on the grounds, we'll have a labyrinth on the grounds. It's a prayer walk. And that's through the generosity of Mary Bressens. labyrinth will bring a lot of people to Manresa looking for that prayer walk. Improvements to the Station of the Cross pathway, and everybody in here knows that needs to be done because of the generosity of the Molnars. Thank you very much. Have a number of others, including the restoration of the historic barn, which we think was built around 1870, not too long after the Civil War, to make it useful for other activities, especially for youth. The effort, the second part of it, is to provide funds to ensure that the McGrail Fund still continues to fulfill the aspirations of those who established it in their wisdom so many years ago. I can tell you right now, we would have grave difficulties sustaining retreats at Manresa without the McGrail Fund and the income that comes from them. So I'm very, very thankful for that group of people that established that many years ago, some of which are, I'm sure, in this room. There are more details we would like to share with you, and to do that I would like to invite one of the campaign's co-chairs to the podium. I invite up Frank Migliazzo.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Besides Rita doing such a great job, Michelle has also been pushing us. And they said to me, you got to be a little enthusiastic. I'm a little bit laid back person, you know? So I said, I don't know if I can do that. So as I was thinking about this, because I'm in the investment world, most of us know the stock market's been doing great. Market's at all-time high up until the last week or so. But what's been happening is a lot of stocks have been going public. Right? Facebook went public, Groupon's going public, you can name all these companies. So Manresa's going public. So it's not necessarily going on the stock exchange, but we are going public to announce what we're trying to do here. So our goal is to raise $1.5 million, which was a huge goal. We started about August of last year. And through the help of this committee and a lot of generous folks in this room, as of today, we have $860,000 committed. You know, it's really amazing. This is a 3 to 5 year commitment, and you know, a lot of charities are struggling. And for the grace of God, we continue to just we're at 60% of our goal. So the next phase of this thing will now be we're in this private phase. Now we'll go public. We've got another year or so to go to try to get to this goal of $1.5 million. Like you said, having this McGrail Fund up a little higher than what it is now, it generates a lot of income for the operations of the place, and that's you know, help us sustain it for the next 90 years. So over the next several months, don't get mad at us. We'll be hearing a lot about this thing. We're going to keep you up to date on the progress. But we're going to work real hard to try to get to our goal. This place has been so special to all of us, and that's the first time I've seen that particular video. But if you think around the country, the number of these Jesuit places are closing. For some reason, ours keeps going strong. So thanks for all your support.
Thank you, Frank. We now come to the heart of the program, and truly the heart of the program. And I would like Father Hyde to come up and speak. Thank you, Father Hyde.
But to reiterate some of the comments that Hugh Buchanan has already stated, Manresa is not so much a place, it's a community. It's you. It's a community of people who, for many various reasons, have been called together to be able not only to grow spiritually in the Ignatian tradition, but also to find ways to share the fire, to be able to extend that blessing that we have received to other people. Over the last 6 years, we have seen how that community has continued to grow, has continued to flourish in spite of many of the challenges that the church is facing, that our society here in Detroit is facing. And I'm very proud of what Manresa has been able to achieve. But I think it's important to keep the focus correct on you, to focus on the people that make up Manresa, who are part of the mission of Manresa. And I want tonight to recognize a couple who I think embody the principles of what Manresa is all about. William Molnar is a graduate of our schools, UD High School and University of Detroit. He has been continuing to live out the values that he first received way back, and I'm not sure what year it was, but sometime in the 1950s he made his first retreat at Manresa, and he continues to go strong. We're very grateful for his contribution, and also the contribution of his wife, Mary, who has been also with us on the journey, continues to pilgrim with us, continues to welcome other people with us, and most of all, as Pope Francis' words have suggested, to preach not so much by word, but by who we are. Yeah. And I think that is really the key of the next generation of evangelization. Preaching the word at all times, and only if necessary using words. I think it's by our example of community, our example of service, and our example of devotion to one another and to those who are most in need. So I would like to please welcome to our podium here, Bill and Molnar.
Thank you, Father. Bill and I would like to thank Manresa for this wonderful leadership award. Sorry, okay. Manresa has always been so dear to our hearts. We come every year on a retreat, and it helps us to meditate, pray, and grow in our spiritual lives. Tonight I am so grateful. My daughters and their husbands are here to celebrate with us. I'd like to call on them. Would you please stand, Christina and Sean Metros? And Monique and Brian Bates, my other daughter. And the reason they're here to celebrate with us is because they want to continue the family tradition to support Manresa for the future generation. And I am very happy that we talked a lot about it, and we're very supportive of Manresa. I also want to thank the Jesuits and the staff for making this such a beautiful evening and keeping Manresa so going, and all the hard work they have done with the grounds and everything. I think it's phenomenal. And I also want to congratulate Mary for a lifetime achievement award. You are an unbelievable woman, and you've done so much for Manresa, and we love you.
I'm the leader here. I want to thank all the Jesuits like Father Hyde for his many years at Manresa, guiding us on our retreat. This started for me from my high school education at UD Jesuit, and college in Detroit and the many retreats in Manresa. So I'm deeply grateful for the spiritual lectures to keep us knowledgeable about how to conduct our Catholic faith. My wife and Marie are grateful for all the Jesuit religious work, for all our spiritual benefits, and knowing all about Jesus and his spiritual instructions on how we should conduct our lives for the success for our journey to him in heaven. God bless us all, Jesuit admirers and supporters here today. God bless Jesuit Pope Francis and all the Jesuits worldwide for their religious, spiritual, and charitable work. I like to add this. I found it in one of my little Jesuit books here recently that I picked up in Florida. This is here it is, exactly. Anyways, wisdom is knowing what to do next. Skill is knowing how to do it. Virtue is doing it. Thomas Jefferson.